Welkom terug allemaal. Hopelijk vond u de breakout sessies ook zo inspirerend en zullen de tips en ideeën binnenkort al tot een aantal nieuwe stappen leiden in uw bedrijf. As our final keynote speaker of this plenary session, we have the pleasure to introduce you to Mark Miodownik, material scientist and engineer working at the University College of London.
Hello everybody, it's nice to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm a material scientist and engineer. I've been working with many companies over the last few years to help them drive change, drive towards sustainability. And of course, it's a complex thing to do, and organizations and companies are complex things. And this enormous transition is a daunting task. So I wanted to talk for a bit about what I've learned in working with these companies and the difficulties and my suggestions for companies for how to approach this. So, of course, we always start with a diagram like this. Is from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, but there are many other diagrams of the circular economy. And in a way, we've seen this all before. It sounds fine, great. Everything's going to become circular. All products will become circular. We will stop wasting stuff. We will minimize energy usage. The theory is all there, and I'm sure you're all familiar with it. But the question then happens to be, well, okay, that's the theory. But how are we actually going to do it? Because it's so complex to achieve, and every business is part of a set of other complex interactions, both with customers and citizens, with regulators, but also with their own supply chains and other businesses, their rivals. And that, trying to have a business model that actually allows a business to innovate and become more sustainable is the big question. So I want to just give an example of a washing machine company. This is just an example, and we could be any manufactured goods, but I mean it's a good example because it's a product that most people have in their homes and will always need. The saturation of the markets in Europe is something like 95% of washing machines. So very high. It's got electronics, it's got mechanics, but actually as things go, it's not the most complex of products. And the pressure to make a profit in this sector has been basically to compete on price. And so price has come down and down and down over the last 20 years. But at the same time, the manufacturers have been told that they need to, by law, make their devices more energy efficient. And they have done that. So the market has really worked and the regulation has really worked. But now, all of a sudden, the manufacturers are being told it's not enough, because the lifespan of these products is now getting to the point where they are 7-8 years. And in fact, in many cases, much less than that at the lower price end. So you have a situation where someone is buying something for 300 euros. It's doing their washing, they're a family, 2 or 3 kids, perhaps. It's a very vital part of the household. And of course, they're going to want to buy the cheapest one they can buy with minimum set of features. But if you're the business person and you're being told, okay, now we need this product in a circular economy, we need it to last about 30 years in order to kind of offset all the carbon emissions due to its manufacture, but also to move to a new business model where it's repairable, much more repairable than in the past. Because I guess we've all had this experience, which is that you buy a washing machine or something like it, and then a few years later, something goes wrong in a bearing or a motor or electronics, and the repair person comes round, or you yourself analyze the situation, and you realize that to buy the part and install it, or to hire someone to do that, will cost more than the machine. And so they're only too happy with this business model. It creates a turnover of new production, but it's very bad for the environment. And if you say, as we have to these manufacturers, you need to design a washing machine that lasts 30 years, they look at you with blankness, like it's impossible. How could they? What company would ever do that? It would be suicide for the business because you would never get any profit margin. So what I wanted to talk through with you is how that might happen, because that is essentially what many, many businesses are being asked to do, and it seems impossible. So I've got these 3 sort of areas that I want to talk about. One is the business model itself. At the moment, the business model is make it as reliable as possible for a very, very low price point. And then if it has to be repaired, you have to have spare parts available, but they tend to be quite expensive, and the design is optimized really for a short lifespan. But now you've got to change the business model. So now we're going to try and make it last 20, 30 years. And so all the parts that are going to break often need to be replaced in that lifetime. So now the business model is going to switch from making new machines to making your money out of repair and supplying spare parts. Now that changes the design philosophy around the machine, because it would be in your interests, and you might compete with other washing machine manufacturers to be more repairable. In fact, if your spare parts are listed, then people will buy ones which they know will be readily available and cheaper. But then when you think about that, you need to then think about, well, we could get some more revenue by building in a loyalty, right? People will now have your brand in their house de facto for 20, 30 years. Now that's a business opportunity. And you can then use that business opportunity because they'll be contacting you for spare parts, and they'll be contacting you for repair, to widen the portfolio of services that you offer them, because that communication will be vital. We've all been there, haven't we? The washing machine is broken. It's Monday morning. By Wednesday, the washing is piling up. Your household is ceasing to function. If you are the company that not only comes to the rescue, but does it time and time again over 20 or 30 years, that is a reputation that's worth a lot of money. And so what you get is a move towards companies making their money and trading on not just price, but environmental credentials and environmental impact. This also, of course, affects your supply chain. When you talk to mass manufacturers like this, they don't do anything without talking to their supply chain. The supply chain really makes a big difference here. Now, the supply chain also needs to move to more circular economy, but how are they going to do it? Well, they're making parts at the moment, sourcing stuff from all over the world. That has a huge impact both on water, energy use, air pollution, materials use, biodiversity. We know it all, right? Now, how would they, when they're asked to reduce their carbon emissions and their impact, how would they able to help you on your mission? Well, it's obvious. You're the ones going in there. You're changing the spare parts of the machine, but you're getting the old parts back. Now, these at the moment are thrown away mostly, and we see these enormous piles of electronic waste increasing year on year. But this is a missed opportunity. Those manufacturers need to change their business model, so they are having the parts returned to them. And if they're getting them back, then they don't need to source as many minerals from the global market as they did before. And you can see quite quickly that if you could have a business model that worked, and of course this is really the key point, there need to be incentives in the system for the supply chain to do this, then you would have a circular system that not only would be more robust and more environmentally sound, but would be more local. And I think the local element of manufacture is going to become a bigger and bigger influence, because this brings me to my third point, which is that this whole thing has to be done in, and this is, when I talk about washing machines, it's a personal product, of course, but it could be anything. It could be clothes, could be furniture, it can be radios, phones, anything. Like, if you think about it, people have lost touch with local manufacturing. Go back 100 years, people knew people in their street that were manufacturers, that did stuff, that made stuff. They walked past workshops all the time. Now we're distanced from that, and because we're distanced from that, there's a lack of understanding of the complexity and of the respect they deserve for this wonderful service they do us all in making these amazing machines that are in our lives, that make our lives so much better. And so not only do you have you have an opportunity to showcase and have local businesses where there are local jobs, because it doesn't really make sense shipping old parts around the world to have the materials taken out and put back in again. And so there's an opportunity both to benefit the community and thus increase your reputation, bring jobs, and square the circle with the environment. But there is the kind of threat side of this too. So that's the opportunity that outlined. But the threat is this, is that governments haven't seen enough progress. And that may be because the playing field has to be level for all manufacturers to innovate this way. And one example of laws that are coming through to essentially incentivize companies that behave this way is the right to repair laws that are coming into Europe this year, into the UK this year, and into the US, and will grow throughout the world. And these right to repair laws have come about because of restrictive practices by manufacturers trying to keep a profit and keep afloat, I'm sure, with good intentions. But this has meant the shortening of lifespan of new goods. So washing machines, hair dryers, all these things have started just to die in people's homes and be replaced instantaneously with a new one, this without being repaired, because getting parts has been difficult, and also the cost of repair in terms of professional time, how much that costs in developed countries, has been too high. So repair has to come into it, and this right to repair law is going to ensure that parts are reasonably priced, that are available, and these laws are being forced also, and probably will get more stringent, to be honest, if companies don't become more open and environmentally change their business practice to promote repair and reuse over manufacturing new goods. And things like software, you see in America, you've got tractor manufacturers who are producing tractors that only their company will repair, and you can only have the software through their dealership, and you need the software to get in and diagnose the problem. And this is causing all sorts of outrage amongst the farmers. So this isn't about consumer goods necessarily. This is a widespread practice that these laws are now going to be trying to change that. And you can see in France already that there is not just a right to repair, but there is a requirement to post the repairability of an electronic good on the website next to the price. So you have to, and it's for limited sets of goods at the moment, but of course that is going to happen more and more, that the repairability will be the thing that citizens can look at when they're buying. And so this will become a competitive advantage. So I say again, really, companies are going to have to compete on environmental impact as well as price. And this is akin, I think, to the wave of digitization that went through the business world 20 years ago. Those people who embraced digitization and saw the opportunities and really took stock of their business and saw how it was going to change everything they do, those businesses thrived. And I think the same will happen now. Environmental credentials are going to be the life and death of the business in 5-10 years' time. And if you don't start now, then it'll be death. This isn't just about electronics and mechanics. It's also all sectors of manufacturing. So I've been doing some work on plastic waste with lots of companies, and single-use plastics, as you probably know, have been singled out as blameworthy for a lot of the plastic waste pollution of the world, and they're certainly a huge problem. And legislation has literally just been coming in year after year now, being tightening up on this. And the idea is that taxes will be used to move manufacturers away from single-use plastics to recyclable plastics and to reuse options. And you see this list, 2020, 2022, 2023, as new ways of collecting waste and separating waste, and new taxes are coming for companies, and you will have to abide by those. And so the writing is on the wall here that if companies don't do it, then the legislation will happen and become tighter and tighter. The other thing I think that's really clear is that citizens will no longer be consumers. This has been a kind of watchword of the economics community and government about growing consumption, but consumption is no longer compatible with a healthy society, and certainly humans. I mean, humans and global warming cannot coexist with consumption as the main driver for the economics. So guardians of stuff, you'll be selling stuff to citizens that they will look after. You need to help them look after it. But not just that, you need to make money out of that. And that is going to be the big challenge. How do we make things last longer, but still make enough money that there's enough jobs and wealth around for everyone to have a healthy life? This is iPads, this is phones, this is washing machines, this is clothes. All of this is about no longer being a consumer, no longer trying to make the loop fast from buying something to throwing it away and getting a new one, but instead keeping them going for longer. But these same people, you, me, well, we are also the shareholders, aren't we, through pensions, but we're also maybe literally shareholders, and we're also the employees. And we care, it turns out. This is the zeitgeist, and it's going to be the zeitgeist because the world is going to heat up. There's probably nothing we can do about that. All we can do is limit that heat at the moment. And as things get worse in terms of heat and extreme weather, and as we see around the world, then the zeitgeist will only concentrate on this part. We will not want to be part of companies. We will not want to buy from companies that are not seen to be part of the solution. And so it isn't just about slogans and about targets. It's actually about you convincing us and us being part of the journey of transforming your company, your product, into something that is demonstrably, right, with open data, clearly not a problem. And if you're not part of the solution, I think, in this part of the world, you're going to be part of the problem. And of course, you've seen this recently. The Dutch courts ordered Shell to accelerate their emissions. This is citizen and shareholder power. ExxonMobil were forced to put 2 board seats to activists recently, last week, because they ignored these cries. They ignored them at their peril. They were wrong to do so. The tide has changed, and now companies really need to start to ask customers and shareholders and everyone how they should change their business model and do it fast. So to summarize, this is a joint activity. I understand that businesses, feel the pressure of making a profit. And of course, that profit is important. That's what drives business forward. But innovation no longer needs to be about a new feature set by selling more. Innovation is about repairability. Innovation is about open data, showing that your supply chains are closed. That's innovation now. And the innovative companies of the future are the ones that will survive and thrive. And the ones who are not innovative in terms of their environmental approach will not survive. So be proactive, not reactive. And above all, stop calling your customers consumers. They're not consumers anymore. They are the guardians of stuff.
Thank you, Mark, for this very interesting presentation. Have a nice rest of the day over there in London. Bye.
Thank you.
We hoorden heel veel over WhatsApp, maar voor de blik op de toekomst, de What's Next, hebben we Benjamin de Naaier voor jullie klaarstaan, Program Manager van het Industriepartnerschap. Hij zal het hebben over de diensten die zullen worden aangeboden door de 17 partners om samen jullie What's Next waar te maken. Benjamin, aan u de eer.
Dankjewel, Lien. We hebben vanmiddag kunnen genieten van een mooie reeks voorbeelden uit de industrie. Bedrijven en ondernemers die stappen zetten richting innovatie. En hun ondernemerschap en verantwoordelijkheid tonen door in te spelen op de actuele uitdagingen. Uitdagingen die voortkomen uit bedreigingen zoals cyberhacks, maar ook absolute noodzaken zoals onze industrie duurzamer krijgen. Uitdagingen ook om onze industrie competitief te houden door het inzetten van slimme technologie of verder te gaan digitaliseren. Of onze industrie veerkrachtig maken voor volgende crisissen door ze naar industrie 4.0 niveau te gaan tillen. Uitdagingen die we vaak ook wel kunnen omzetten in opportuniteiten. Maar laat de technologie as such niet een doel op zich zijn. Zet ze in waar het kan gebruikt worden als een enabler om de job to be done van je klant of van je bedrijf te gaan realiseren. Wat de voorbeelden van vanmiddag gemeenschappelijk hadden, is dat ze allemaal zijn gaan samenwerken. Samenwerken met domeinexperten. Ze hebben de kennis in huis gehaald en daardoor hebben ze voorsprong kunnen nemen. Of ze hebben een achterstand ingehaald. De drempel lijkt vaak echter hoger dan hij in werkelijkheid is, als je er de juiste mensen kan bijhalen om je te begeleiden. Samen met de 17 partners van het Industriepartnerschap hebben we een aanbod van diensten uitgewerkt waarmee we in de behandelde topics vandaag jullie kunnen verder helpen om die stappen te zetten. Het is een mix van diensten waarbij jullie zowel individueel of in groep kunnen gaan voorthelpen. Diensten waarbij we je gaan coachen, maar ook kennis gaan overdragen. En Vlaio heeft beslist jullie daarin te steunen. En daardoor kan dat vaak op een kosteninteressante manier. Intussen zijn we al een jaar aan het werk, maar neem dus zeker een kijkje op industriepartnerschap.be. Daar vind je een overzicht van welke partners betrokken zijn en wat we hier allemaal gaan aanbieden. Dus, samengevat. Hou de vandaag behandelde topics zeker in het achterhoofd. Samenwerken hierin kan je snel vooruit helpen. En we zijn ter beschikking met de steun van Vlaio om die stappen met jullie te realiseren. Dan rest mij enkel nog jullie te bedanken voor jullie deelname vandaag en graag tot straks in de networking of tot gauw op een van onze activiteiten in het kader van Industriepartnerschap. Lien, aan jou.
Dankjewel, Benjamin. Zeker een kijkje gaan nemen dus op industriepartnerschap.be. En bij deze wil ik jullie dus allemaal uitnodigen voor het Network Lounge. De themamanagers van de 3 thema's digitalisering, duurzaamheid en industrie.0. Ondertussen kennen jullie ze helemaal van buiten. Maar zij verwachten jullie om jullie vragen te beantwoorden en ook om ideeën uit te wisselen tot 5:30. Spreek ook gerust iemand van de andere bezoekers aan om nog een beetje na te praten, zoals op een echt live event. En voilà, jullie worden zo dadelijk automatisch doorverwezen naar deze networking sessions. Bedankt voor jullie aanwezigheid. Het was ook voor mij een inspirerende namiddag en een eer om jullie gastvrouw te mogen zijn. En ik hoop jullie heel snel terug te zien op het volgende inspirerende event. Dag!